all set.
I have a script.
You really don't need a script. You can just say, welcome to Beth.
At Rotary Club of Milwaukee today, and we are so fortunate. I mean, the demand on this speaker time has been so great from all avenues of life, from Wisconsin Avenue to Port Washington Road, to have this young lady come and speak to us. Our speaker today is Beth Ridley, who is a consultant in the field of emotions and making of yourself a brimful life, which all of us are capable of doing. She also is willing to speak about the opportunities to enlarge your vision and larger horizons and take steps away from your comfort zone. Ms. Ridley, well, actually, she goes by Elizabeth Ridley, is a graduate of Homestead High School at the University of Virginia. She spent time working in Japan. She spent time working in Africa, spent time working at in a major nonprofit in New York City. Her experience is broad, it's very diverse, and it is very well, suits her very well for what she's going to speak to us today. So I think that that's sufficient information. I would bring your attention to the speaker today, Elizabeth Ridley.
Thanks, Dad.
Hey, you're welcome.
So yeah,
I can fill in.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so we're going to talk about experiences and why experiences are super important, and sort of how I fell into experiences almost sort of like as a way of life. And since I do have some slides which I'll show, but since we have such a small group, just ask questions, take yourself off mute or throw them in chat. So it's more of a conversation than anything else, but I'll just tell my story. Hopefully maybe you get some inspiration and some nuggets out of it. But it's really about transforming your mindset through experiences, and how I challenged myself for 1 full year to embark on one new experience a week, something that took me outside of my regular routine and my comfort zone. So Mary, we're going to start with your favorite picture. The reason why I took on this challenge was because I just had my job, my normal corporate job. And it was at a point in time where it felt like nothing was going right. I was having challenges with my team, and, I felt like how this dog looks in the picture, but for like a year. It's like every day was a rough day. And so I was having like all the problems of work that were on my mind. And, it was really making me not really like work. And then when you don't like how things are happening at work, a lot of times that seeps into your personal life as well. So I was ruminating about work a lot, and like everything that was going wrong at work was always on my mind. So one day I happened to be at a Starbucks that I stopped in out of my normal routine to just grab a tea before I went to work. And the line was kind of long. So I was standing in line, stewing about work. But then I looked up and I noticed that there was a person who was sitting at a booth at Starbucks, and she had her coffee and she was reading a book. And she looked so calm and relaxed. And I thought to myself, I've never just taken the time to read a book in a coffee shop. And my first reaction was, who does this? Why does she not have a job? And how come she's not so upset about her job like I am? But then my second thought was, that looks really nice. And that would be nice to do one day. And then my third thought was, I'm going to actually do it. So over the weekend, I actually decided, thank you, that I was going to grab a magazine, and I was going to go to a new coffee shop that I had never been to before, and sit and read my magazine in the coffee shop, because I'd never carved out time to do that. Working full time, raising 3 kids, it just seemed like a luxury that I could never pull off. But I did, and it was actually so nice. And then I thought, while I was doing that, I wasn't thinking anything about work at all. I was just absorbed in the magazine. And it was something that got me out of my typical routine. It was really refreshing. And I noticed that even being able to take my mind off of work for a little bit really helped me overall, because I wasn't stewing so much or ruminating or just focusing on the negative. Just that little bit of pause to remind me that even when things are not going right or not everything is in my control, there's still a lot of joy in the world and in tiny little moments and small things that you could do. And so I thought to myself, how can I keep replicating this ability for me to just pause and get myself out of work mode so that I'm more energized and refreshed to go back to work and tackle the challenges. And that's where this plan of, I was going to challenge myself to do one new thing a week.
Fun one. Why don't you listen with me?
For a year. And I really had small things in mind, not big things at all, like small things like, stop and get a new cup of coffee at a new place on my way to work, or maybe shop at a new grocery store just to get me out of my routine. Or maybe like try a new brand of yogurt. Like these were not big things at all, just little small things that I could actually pull off and just kind of, disrupt my routine a little bit. Well, once I started doing small things and kind of making it a habit, you'd be surprised how many other things, I got sort of inspired and energized. And once I started telling people that I was going to try to do one new thing a week, like everybody suggested ideas like, have you done this? You should try this. Oh, let's do this together. So you can see some of the things that I did for myself, but then I also roped in like family, and it became like this whole like challenge actually. And so, like I said, for one full year, I challenged myself to do one new thing a week. And some things were super small and some things were more meaningful. So two of the things I just want to mention that I did that ended up being like things that I just started to incorporate in my life more regularly was speed skating. So one of the new things I tried was speed skating. And this came up because when I hatched this plan, this was going back a while now, it was the Winter Olympics that was in, I think, China, or I can't remember where it was. But anyways, the Winter Olympics were on TV. And I was watching speed skating and it looked just kind of fun. Of course, at the Olympic level, they make it look so easy. And I thought, well, that looks like a nice alternative to running outside in the winter. And it just so happens that Wisconsin, Milwaukee, we have there's only 2 Olympic speed skating training centers in the US. So Milwaukee and Salt Lake City. And I thought, well, that would be awesome to take advantage of something so unique. And they offered speed skating lessons. So I signed up and I took a lesson, and then I took more, and then I joined a speed skating league. And then I met professional speed skaters. So this is Shawnee Davis, and it ended up being something that I've done for many years. This is the first winter that I haven't done speed skating because I think the rink was closed for COVID. But anyways, that was something new that I simply tried as part of this challenge that became like just part of my life. It was a new hobby that I picked up. And the other one I want to share is sometimes it required being open and saying yes more often when opportunities came my way. So one evening, a friend of mine invited me to a baseball game. Now, please don't judge or think badly of me, but I actually hate baseball. Like I absolutely loathe it. I can't stand baseball. So my first reaction normally, if I wasn't on this challenge of one new thing a week, would be to say no, like, nope, I got something else to do. Sorry, too busy for that. But I needed something that week, so I said yes. And I showed up at Miller Park. I met my friend there, and I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna, walk all the way up the stairs to get to like wherever our seats probably are in the nosebleed section. And then the person showing me to the seat was like, nope, you're gonna go down. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I started walking down and further down and further down. And I'm practically on the baseball field. So this is a picture. I think we were playing the, who is that? Is that the Cardinals? Can anybody tell? I don't know what team that was. Anyways, So we were like literally behind the, and I'm going to get my terminology wrong, dugout? I don't know. So it was an amazing experience because I was so close. And in fact, every time they broadcast the game on TV, you could see me because we could hear the conversation of the baseball players. Like you could almost reach out and touch them. And then we met some of the players afterwards because my friend knew some of them. Maybe they were famous. I don't know. I don't know baseball, but it was like a really unique opportunity. So the lesson learned was like, sometimes you have to say yes, even when you maybe don't want to, because you'll be so pleasantly surprised. So anyways, those were just like two examples. And so this was another one where once people found out I was kind of roping in other people. And there was a dragon boat race the first year that they did it in Milwaukee, where you basically get on this like long canoe thing as a team and you race each other on the lagoon on the east side. And so I got 21 of my coworkers to join me in trying something new. We had never done anything like that before, but we were all game to learn together. And we actually got third place. So those were just some examples of like the bigger experiences, but not everything was that big of a deal. Like, again, sometimes it was like trying a new brand of yogurt or something small. But basically at the end of the year, when I reflected on everything, I found that even though nothing changed at work in terms of the circumstances were still really awful and challenging, I just didn't care as much because I was finding ways of finding joy and meaning outside of work. And I remembered that there's so much joy in life, even when some things in some aspects of your life aren't going well. But because of all these new experiences that I was just doing one at a time, I built confidence too. You know, I like learning how to speed skate. It was really, really hard at first, and then I got better. So I built some confidence. I found that I was more resilient because I was trying new things. I became more open-minded, more energetic. All these things actually, I think, made me a better leader at work because I didn't get so stressed out or so fixated on the things that were not going right. I had more energy and capacity to focus on just how to make things better. And so ultimately things resolve themselves at work, but I do like to think that it was my ability to carve out time to focus on things outside of work that kind of helped with that. So that was what I learned about myself just like at the end of the year. But since then, I actually started researching and doing a lot of studying around this topic of positive psychology, which is basically the scientific study of what makes humans thrive and what makes humans happy. And lo and behold, it turns out, and I didn't quite realize this at the time, that there's a lot of evidence-based research that shows investing in experiences does lead to more joy and happiness in your life, more so than material things. And a lot of that is because experiences more than material things really define who we are. And also oftentimes you're engaging in experiences with other people. So it's great for bonding and building relationships. And I like to say experiences creates a lifetime of happiness because you have sort of the anticipation of the experience, which is an experience of itself. Like before you actually do something, you're looking forward to it. Then of course you have the experience, but then you have all the memories afterwards. So it really is, you know, a lifetime of happiness that you get that you can't get out of material things. So this kind of became my mantra: fill your life with adventures, not things, have stories to tell, not stuff to show, that I really have started to actively embrace. And I just think it's like a good thing to always incorporate into one's life, and small things that you can do to push you outside of your comfort zone or disrupt your routine a little bit, I think is always a good thing to do. So I have some tips that I can share with you on how to do that and some suggestions, but maybe before I get to that, since I shared a lot about just my own story, I'll see if anybody has any. Oh, hi, Coach Frank. I didn't see you pop in. Ooh, Lola's getting ready for her track meet. I'll see if anybody has any questions.
Teresa Regan put a question in the chat. Teresa, do you want to say it out loud or do you want me to read it?
I'm eating lunch, so.
Oh, that's okay. Well,
I
I'm happy to read it. She says,
Yeah.
this is fascinating. What suggestions do you have during a pandemic?
Yeah. So, well, I'll go ahead and jump to that. So, first of all, just a couple of tips in general, like if you want to incorporate more experiences in your day-to-day. I mean, I think we all do it, like planning big vacations, but I think I think it's good to do on a micro level too, just day-to-day stuff. So I found that it was helpful to sometimes just at least make a list. So maybe if you wake up in the morning, you're not feeling particularly creative or nothing comes to mind, I at least had a list of things that I'd like to do that I could like pick from. And then I also think it's important to just do what you feel like doing that particular day. I mean, this is meant to be fun, not onerous or anything like that. So I always just ended up doing like what I wanted to do. It was also helpful to be spontaneous. Again, a lot of times like opportunities would come to me. It was just more a matter of just saying yes. Then my default would be like, no, I got to get home. I'm busy. But sometimes you just gotta just go ahead and say yes, even maybe especially if it's something that you may not be inclined to do otherwise. It also helped to involve others. Once I started telling people I was on this challenge, a lot of people gave me ideas or invited me to stuff, invited me to join with them, and I invited other people to join me and made a lot of friends that way too. And then, I started a group, I was part of a book club, and when I was inviting some of the book club ladies with the experiences, they decided they preferred experiences more than reading books. So now we still get together once a month to do experiences, and everyone chooses something different to do that maybe they haven't done. So we've done things like axe throwing and rock climbing, river rafting, tubing, just stuff that we wouldn't normally do. So it's always good to involve others. And then I think it's good to journal about it. Like, what are you learning and growing? What challenges have you overcome? How have you overcome fears maybe? So it's just kind of fun to reflect back. So those are just general tips. I think your question was in time of COVID, right? Yeah. So here are some ideas. So one thing is because so many people would ask me, like, give me ideas. So I actually came up with a card deck. You can get them on my website of try one new thing a week. So they're filled with a ton of ideas. Now this was created before COVID. So some of them you can't do, but a lot of them were really intended, again, not to be major big things, like not skydiving, but some of them are like, so this one, attend a play or a musical or a show at your local performing arts theater. One of them was, listen to some, or discover a new band on Pandora, maybe take an online class. So there were definitely some things in there that you can do even now. But the other two are specifically for COVID. So the one here in the upper right-hand corner is Airbnb online experiences. So if you know Airbnb, right, you can look for personal homes to stay in instead of a hotel when you travel to a new city. So they've done a great job of creating Airbnb regular experiences. So when you go to a new city, you can find someone who's just passionate about their city to take you around, to take you to, their favorite parks or take you on a walking tour. So they've always had that with Airbnb, but now they've built out that whole same platform, but for online experiences. So you can literally travel the world by clicking and seeing what someone who lives somewhere is passionate about and wants to teach you or show you. So I've been doing these with my family, and Dad, you can share because you've been doing them with us. Like we did a magic show, a family magic show, and online, and everybody dials in, but the magician was actually based in Tokyo, which was kind of cool because he was also telling us about Japan. then we liked that one so much. We did a ramen noodle tasting workshop, also led by a person in Japan. And part of it was he took us on a walking tour of different ramen noodle shops in Japan. So the kids got to kind of experience being in Tokyo. So those are great, 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 great. You can literally travel the world. You can do it by yourself and join with a group of other strangers virtually, or you can book it as a private thing for a family or maybe a work team. And then before I describe the third one there, which is also specifically for COVID, I just see, Dad, if you have anything you want to share about Airbnb experiences since you've done them with us. Did you like them?
I love them. One of the advantages of having you in our family is that we get to experience new and wonderful and odd things almost constantly.
I don't know if that's, well, I'm sorry. New and wonderful sounded good. The odd.
Who wouldn't want to do odd things? Anybody can do what you're doing on the routine all the time. That's nothing special. But
Yeah.
but having you in the family is it's been a trip.
And actually, so the last one, I created links for these. So I am gonna put the link in the chat for all three of these, like where you can get my cards, how you go to Airbnb online experiences. And the last one here I'll show. So I stumbled upon this. This is called a remote experience generator. So literally you go to this website and you click on all sorts of things like, how much time do you have from 5 minutes to 5 days? Do you want to do something by yourself or do you want to do something with a group? Do you whatever, how involved do you want it to be? So you put all that in and then it spits out suggestions for you based on your criteria. So I'm gonna put the link for that in the chat right now, because I thought that was super cool. And that gave me all these ideas that I can't wait to use. So here it comes, 1 second in the chat.
And Beth, if we go to the Airbnb website, we'd find those virtual experiences.
I'm putting it in the chat right now.
Okay.
Here it comes. Sorry, give me 1 second.
I know Carrie Shaw, Carrie Shaw from Rotary has done cooking classes. Like she learned how to make croissants from a French chef through Airbnb. And I think they did some kind of pasta with an Italian chef.
Yeah. So here, I'll show you, I'll go to Airbnb right now. Actually, let me show you the remote generator first, because I thought that was pretty nifty. So 1 second. Okay, so, all right, so hopefully you can see my screen. All right, so here's the remote generator experience. So you click on it, start. So here you can just like type in, who do you want to interact with? People, animals, myself. I haven't done animals, so let's do animals. How much time do you want to commit for a moment? You could spare an hour or two. I have all the time in the world. What's the method of interaction? Away from a screen or something kind of digital? Let's do that. How intense of an experience would you like? Light touch, moderate, heavy. Let's do moderate. And so up comes the, you could set up a live stream of a pet tortoise and try to make it a viral internet sensation. So bottom line is, you can just sort of have fun with this. But now let's do Airbnb. And I'll show you the Airbnb experiences. Now this one's,
I have to live with this.
yeah. Yeah, that's our next one, Dad. We're gonna do a tortoise thing. Okay, so here's the did I click on it right? Yeah. So I mean, look at this one. So true or false funny historical game. Who knows what this one's all about? But you could do Irish village history, cult and culture. with this guy. See, and so you have a chance to like go inside their homes. He'll take you on a walking tour so you can travel the world. And so you can choose the date that you want, $17 a person, or you can do a private experience. So I highly recommend, you might as well take advantage of this virtual time that we have to travel virtually, and do something that you might not normally do when we could like interact normally. So sometimes I think virtual has some advantages.
So what was your favorite experience and what was your least enjoyable experience, Beth?
That's a good question. Well, my favorite one was I did enjoy speed skating. I met so many different people, and I also learned to really appreciate the Pettit Center, and what a gem it is. Like, you sort of take it for granted, it's in our backyard, but you wouldn't believe there were people who were flying once a week from across the country to skate there, because they don't have to go to Salt Lake City. You have to qualify certain times in order to get even on the practice rink. So it really is a little bit more like higher scale. But for ours, it's free and open to the public. So I met a guy once a week. He would fly from Seattle to train on his own. And I met another woman. She was 75 years old. Her dad was an Olympic speed skater in Calgary, Canada, where they have a lot of outdoor speed skating rinks, but they're outside, and she doesn't like the unpredictability with the weather. So she would fly in at 75 once a week to skate at the Pettit. And I used to complain to them like, oh, traffic was so bad, it took me 20 minutes. And they would look at me like, are you kidding? So that was quite enjoyable. And it was really fun to, as I'm going around like super slow in the inner ring, the Olympic athletes, they're training on any regular day. You'd have teams from all over the world, like teams from Japan and Germany, and just to watch them go by is really fun. And, you know, like you get to meet them and talk to them, and very fascinating. So that's probably one of the highlights. The one I didn't like, I joined a band, and I didn't like that. I volunteered to be keyboardist because I played piano growing up. And so I practiced for like the first concert or whatever that we were going to do as a band. And I thought it was like super stressful, and I didn't do very good. So the band, after our initial concert, said that, oh, they're going to get like professional like practice time at Radio Milwaukee 88.9. And I was waiting for the email to come to let me know like when practice was, and the email never came. And then I found out that the band had like gone on and had become like somewhat successful. And they intentionally never invited me to join them for practice. But it's a band that
There goes stardom.
Yeah, if I said the name, you'd know. I mean, successful here locally. You know, you can book them for weddings or whatever. But they went on and like continued as a band, and they didn't invite me. But that's okay, because I didn't like it that much.
Yeah, thanks very much. That's very interesting.
Frank, Coach Frank here has a question. Which positive psychology experts inspired you?
Well, the founder, I guess, of positive psychology is this guy named Martin Seligman. And he was the president of the American Psychology Association in the 80s, I think, 80s or 90s. And he was the one that said, up until that point, psychology had only focused on what makes people broken and dysfunction and mental illness. In order to have a well-rounded view of psychology, we also have to know what makes people thrive and mental well-being. So he really brought positive psychology as a study of as a study, where there now, like a lot of, when I was in college, never heard of it, but now a lot of colleges have a positive psychology department. You can take a lot of classes. I do a lot of like webinars for college students, and they've all heard of this. They've all taken classes. So it really has proliferated pretty significantly. So he would be like the person, if you're interested in this topic, you might want to just Google Martin Seligman, Seligman, and you'll get like a lot of great information related to what the research is telling us about what it takes to be happy.
Could you spell that again?
Yep, I'm just gonna write it out and make sure I'm spelling it. So it's Martin is the first name, Seligman. I'll put it in chat.
You know, Beth, my daughter is a therapist. She works online right now, and she's a more traditional, you know, trained in rehabilitative counseling. Can you know, and I'm not a psychologist, can you incorporate some of this mindfulness and these great ideas in normal counseling, or is that a no-no?
No, I think they do, very much so.
And you think Seligman would do that?
Oh, yeah, well, 100%. I mean, because it's all research-based, and you know, they actually have done significant studies that show if you incorporate, they call them interventions, actually, I think is like the clinical term. I just use like best practices. And I think there's like 27 specific positive psychology interventions that you incorporate into your regular like psychology and cognitive behavior study and all that stuff. I boiled it down to kind of like, for me, not being a scientist or anything like that, there's like 4. So one of them is mindfulness, just being present in the moment. One of them is gratitude, being reflective and appreciative of the good things in life and expressing appreciation towards other. One of them is experiences, and one of them is relationships. So those are sort of like the 4 principles that they do integrate into psychology. And all of those have been like studies on it in terms of like, they'll have, you know, A/B test groups, and they'll see like if you expose people to this much mindfulness or gratitude or the influence of meditation on psychology. So it's for sure they absolutely do. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'll test that on.
It gets more mainstream. Yeah. So the company I worked for before I started my own business, I started integrating some of this in like my just normal day-to-day to increase employee engagement. And it actually worked. And what they found is that they were paying a lot of money out with short-term disability claims, specifically due to stress and anxiety. And so because there's a lot of research around mindfulness and meditation being able to reduce stress and anxiety, they actually rolled out a whole mindfulness meditation program enterprise-wide as a specific way to reduce stress and anxiety and short-term disability claims. So I think the evidence is pretty compelling that companies are willing to spend money on it.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I expected to really enjoy this program, Beth, but you exceeded my expectations. This has been great. And we are at 12:36. I don't know whether you have a few more minutes if people want to stay, but I just want to, you know, give you all the opportunity to thank Beth, if that's what we want to do now. But we know where to find you too.
Yes, you do know where to find me.
So what's your website again?
Hello,
I'll put it in the chat.
can I jump in? Oh, hello.
Is Kathy Keat?
Okay, I'm on. I really share your interest in resilience and hardiness, Beth. I've been studying these things since the mid 80s and have hooked up with a number of different people. One of the other great sources is the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. They have a whole section, and they've been ahead of their time in terms of positive psychology, positive organizational psychology. But many years ago, I would have to say it was in the early 80s, I met with a man and used to have a speech called Hardiness, Secrets of the Fit and Famous. And I did offer it at Northwestern Mutual in the late 80s. But I came up with 12 characteristics. But the person that started my journey on this his name was Salvador Matti. And he wrote a book because he studied resilience in terms of why people are successful and why people are not successful or hardy and resilient in this life. And he found, some very common characteristics, and I'd like to highlight them a little bit for everyone. It's commitment, which is like having a passion for something, seeing yourself in a sense of having control, but as that really means the ability to influence over situations that are difficult, and having a sense of challenge. You look at situations as being more positive and a sense of challenge rather than negative. And the fourth basic idea is connection, which you also highlighted in terms of having relationships. So those are some of the four fundamentals, but it's very important, I think, and very helpful personally for me to be resilient and to practice resilience. It's something that can be learned and carried out through your life by many of the things that you've mentioned that Siegelman did, as well as many others in the field. I've seen the field really change from the early 80s, and no one was talking about resilience, to the current situation, maybe the last 4 or 5 years, where everyone's talking about resilience. And this can help people on all different levels, all different walks of life. And it's really a positive way of approaching, this life.
Yeah,
So that's
Thank
what I'll
you.
pass. Yeah.
very helpful. Thank you.
Well, if there's no more questions, I think we will thank Beth, but we have her website. We have her phone number in the roster.
I have
And
a quick
oh, there's
question,
Alex.
Beth. I saw a bunch of books on your website. Is there like shipping? Could Rotary do a bulk order? Are all the books stored at John's house in his basement?
Rotary can do a bulk order, and I can save you on shipping by driving them over. They're not in my dad's basement. They're in my basement, though.
Thank you.
Great program. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thank you, Mary and Michelle.
Thanks, Beth.
Thanks, Dad, for the introduction.
It was fabulous.
Yeah, thanks, Beth.
Really, really enjoyed it.
I'm going to send it to my children to tell them they should explore some of these things. Send them a link.
Yeah, and if anybody actually tries anything on like Airbnb or the experience generator, like for sure email me and let me know. I'd love to hear what people are trying and doing and how it's working out.
Sure.
Thanks, Beth. It was great.
All right, thanks everybody.
Bye,
Have a
Bye,
great
Beth.
day.
Thanks
Okay,
again.
bye.